Welcome to Tripping the Void with your host, Saraphine Hurley. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go. Good morning and good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to Tripping the Void here. This is Saraphine Hurley. I hope you all are well today, or getting to be well, one of the two. And today I've decided that we're going to be talking about winter witchcraft and lore. We're kind of going to go a little bit all over the map because I have a little bit of a rant because of being the person that I am and well-rounded and grounded as much as I can be for whatever. Yeah. So you get people who come up to you, and for those of you that live a regular, normal, bunny air quote life, people probably don't come up to you and assume things about your lifestyle. And sometimes they might, because that's kind of the day and age that we are in. I've even been raised by people who profess to be pagan and yelled at for saying some of the things that I do, either on the air or on social media. And it's like, I don't really say a lot, so I don't know what you're talking about. But today I'm going to say some stuff. And it's not coming from a place of hurt or anything like that. It's that I want people to understand some things a little bit better than they already do or think that they do. And because you know me, I'm all about education and extrapolation. So might as well understand the demons that you're talking about or the monsters that you're talking about or the pagans that you're referring to, because we're not all the same. We don't all, have blue blood, and we don't always have fangs, and we don't always have scales or things that you would think, or walk with a limp or anything. We're a very vast, diverse group of people. There's coming from all walks of life. So it's kind of interesting when people, even fellow people who don't believe in mainstream stuff, start accusing or assuming things that aren't true. So we're delving into Tripping the Void with the winter witchcraft and lore. But like I said, we're kind of spanning all over the place. And this is a live show. So if you did want to add to the show, have a story to add to, want to say hi, the phone number is 202-559-7943. So let's go. So one of the things that we notice, the royal we, rituals often focus on light returning. It really makes a lot of sense. Some would say perfect sense in the light, right? Of course. But if we only look to the light, we can miss the beauty and importance of the dark. The dark isn't bad. It's not all bad. The light is not entirely good. There are so many wonderful, transformative, and delicious moments that happen in the dark, the darkness. Just think about it for a moment. I mean, how many things or how many moments or how many things have you seen like in the night sky? It has to be dark to see stars, right? I'll wait for you to get back to me on that one. But yeah, usually, unless you are well off enough to enjoy a telescope that is powerful enough to see them during the daytime. So that's awesome if you can do that, but not everybody has that ability unless they want to look it up online or whatever. So there is beauty in darkness. There's lots of beauty. I won't go too much into my own personal belief on that, but even the regular person on the street can tell you, yeah, there's beauty in the darkness. There can be. But I'm getting feedback like I did the other day. That's weird. So speaking of transformative, winter solstice ritual time is, or just winter solstice in general, is a powerful time to really sink into the darkness all around and see what might be lurking or waiting there for you. Yes, this is a time traditionally, a moment to celebrate the sun, but let's also celebrate the sun's luscious and beautiful sister, the darkness. So there's this quote that was floating around in a meme a while ago, and I thought it was pretty cool. A lot of people try to say that it's theirs, but I didn't quite get to the person who actually it belongs to. So I will just say, in quotes here, they try to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. This is a beautiful example of the power of the dark. So because seeds begin their germination in the dark, in deep and rich soil. So what seeds are you looking to plant this coming year, right? What are you holding, waiting for the right time to germinate? Are you holding on to something for the right time, or are you just sitting on it? Or is this the time for you to actually put it all together? How are you preparing your own rich soil for the coming warmth of spring? Because you got a while to think about it. These might be tantalizing aspirations to explore during the solstice tide, which is upon us coming. Magic also happens in the dark. Not to be too cheesy, but really, more often than not, we meet in the evening. Covens, hostesses, people who get together to talk about subjects that normally wouldn't be spoken about in church, I'd say. Well, at least my mom's church. This is where mystery lies. In many of the tales of the gods and goddesses, there's a reckoning with the underworld that must happen, the underworld in the darkness. So you see a mythical character often journeys to a place of death, darkness, regeneration, and rebirth. For example, the light of Inanna cannot shine until she meets her sister in the underworld. So this may not be a Yule story, but it can be viewed with the same energy as the winter solstice, finding the truth in the darkness, finding our beauty in the darkness, getting the rest and power to return refreshed and renewed. We might gather in the darkness, but what is the first thing that we do in a circle when, for some of us who aren't all the time solitary? We light candles. We bring the fire, the heat. Even if you are solitary, you light candles, right? We light the candles, the fire, the heat, the light into the ritual space. We honor the balance of the darkness and the light. Just as there's power in the darkness, there is a power in stepping into the light, like the story of Adamasu, goddess of the sun, who upon stepping out from the cave sees her beauty for the first time. So allowing ourselves to shine can be tricky and can sometimes feel dangerous. Allowing ourselves to shine, it is one way to find our own balance in the world. So once again, this is a live show, as you can tell from my pause here Katie was saying she wasn't hearing feedback, but I was hearing feedback for some reason. It was really strange, like a couple nights ago. So 202-559-7943. So if you want to have anything to add. So later on, I have a meditation if you would like, or if we have the time for, I will share with you. But right now, there are literally thousands of people around the globe that are getting ready to herald winter solstice, which is basically the shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. With a lot of these rituals are literally centuries old, like soaking in fruit-filled baths or dressing up as a devilish folklore legend that punishes naughty children around Christmas time. There's lots of different traditions. There's lots of different things that are seeped in folklore legends and, tales told around the campfire, tales told to try to get naughty children to be good. So, and a lot of people who are not familiar with solstice, and I hope you would be by now, but solstice happens for everybody who lives on planet Earth. Our winter solstice this year actually will be Friday, December 1st or 21st. So Friday, December 21st, Eastern Standard Time at 5:23 p.m. Will be the first day of winter. So you can gather your seeds and let them sit for a while and think on what you're going to be thinking out over the long winter, or if you're going to start planning on something, or if you haven't already, execute your plan, right? So solstice starts the moment the northern hemisphere is pointed its farthest distance from the sun. The winter solstice is considered a turning point of the year in many cultures, actually. So this sacred day is also called Yule to people who call themselves pagan, celebrating birth of the new solar year. So I'm saying call themselves pagan, not to make other people upset, because some people don't identify with the word pagan. Some people don't know what pagan means, and some people just don't like it. So not in an epic attempt to become PC at all. It's just that I myself don't like being called pagan, because that just doesn't make sense. But so in order to talk about the reemerging into spring after Yule, we're going to pedal backwards and go back to Halloween, which is the autumnal equinox, right? Well, actually not, but it's actually the beginning, ending of the year for a pagan holiday. So funny air quotes, pagan. So Samhain, Halloween is a favorite spot celebration among people who practice witchcraft or Wicca or whatever or you would like to call yourself, or whoever decides to use that terminology. Commonly associated with death, the afterlife, and witchcraft. So in Celtic Ireland around 2,000 years ago, Samhain was the division of the year between the warmer, brighter half, which is summer, and the darker, much cooler winter. So the division between this world and the other world at its thinnest, allowing spirits to pass through, blah, blah, blah. And sisters were honored and invited to visit homes and villages, while harmful or more malevolent spirits were warded off. People wearing costumes and masks to disguise themselves as spirits themselves to keep from being ferried away by denizens of the underworlds. Bonfires and food play a large part in the festivities. Bones of slaughtered livestock and other cast into communal fires. Household fires at this time were extinguished and then later started again from cinders of the communal bonfire, just to ward off evil spirits. So food was prepared for the living and the dead, but food for the ancestors, who most believe are in no position to eat it. Well, I'm not of that corner, but because people would actually leave, traditionally, just leave the food out and let people who couldn't afford food go ahead and take the food. But even if I was starving, I don't know that I would take food from the dead, because I don't know about you, but every time I've heard about, read about, looked up anything about taking anything from people who are dead or other things that are dead, never turns out okay. I don't want to find out what happens if I leave something ritualistically for something or somebody and have it be taken by somebody. I mean, if that person needs the food more than them, then you go on with your bad self, but I don't want to suffer the repercussions. So if you want that extra piece of cake and some oranges, help yourself. Once again, this show is live, so 202-559-7943. So while I was flipping through the pages of history, just like Samhain and talking about Celtic Ireland, the thing that kind of was interesting to me is talking about lighting of the great fires and Samhain and All Hallows Eve night, which was kind of interesting to me because according to history and science, they've actually staked that the Samhain celebrations were happening about 4,500 to 5,000 years ago, which brings us to the understanding that this was celebrated long before the first Celts actually arrived in Ireland. That's like, wow, approximately like over 2,500 years ago. So the perceptible decline in the strength and brightness of the sun, so we're going back to that, at the time of year, Samhain, right? So we're ending the year, and then we're going to go into getting ready for the winter solstice. So perceiving that decline in the strength of brightness of the sun, so you're losing the warmth and the brightness, was a big source of fear and anxiety for early man. And the lighting of winter fires here symbolized man's attempt to assist the sun on its journey across the sky. Fire is the earthly counterpart of the sun and is a powerful and very appropriate symbol to express our human fragility in the face of our overwhelming sense of the death and decay of nature as winter begins to set in. So now, with winter on the horizon, the sun has now descended into the realm of the underworld. The forces of the underworld are in ascendancy. The lords of the underworld, free from the heated burden of the sun, now walk the earth, and with them travel all those other creatures from the land of the dead, either hell, purgatory, or other worldly places, like we discussed in my last holiday horrors of last week on Saturday, where we talked about a lot of the nostalgic folklore, a lot of it from Norway, Iceland, Germany, France, a lot of place, European, Eastern European, things like that. So if you didn't catch that, please be sure to catch that in our archives here at Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. So I'm going to delve into hell. Since there's a lot of people that have decided that hell is just, oh my gosh, so many things are bad about hell. Needless to say that hell actually was a place that didn't even show up until Norse mythology when the Christians first started coming up. And they actually took the word from Norse mythology, Hela being an Asgardian goddess of the underworld, hell. So you can actually Google that if you like. So, because, you know, death and hell and purgatory are so fun to think about during this time of year. It's never put into the words of Jingle Bells, but I'm sure between the lines, maybe somewhere, you never know. Santa does wear red, doesn't he? I'm just saying. So people talk about, and here's part of my rant here, talk about demonic things and how horrible Christmas is and how horrible people who don't practice Christmas is and all the things that can happen to you if you celebrate Christmas or if you celebrate other holidays other than Christmas. And since we did round the corner a little bit last week on folklorish monsters, which I'm not finished yet, but I decided to talk about demons, which actually made their way into literature in the 1400s, actually earlier than that, but they actually started to name them and give them duties and things like that, which kind of makes you go, oh, that's interesting, because as we look through history, you see that it's not only Spanish Franciscan Catholic Bishop Alfonso de Spina, which was his recording was in 1467, where all these people who get let loose from the underworld during wintertime, they're actually talking about, as you know, Alphonse stated and classified, demons of fate, goblins, incubi and succubi, wandering wayward groups or armies of demons, like, let's just say, the ones that take to the skies in the middle of the night in midwinter. Familiars, dryads, naiads, cambions, and other demons that are born from the union of a demon with a human being. Did you even know that that could happen? Well, if Nephilim can happen, so can those, right? Liar and mischievous demons, which this bishop actually said that a liar is actually a kind of demon, which I like to, instead of demon, schemian, because it'd be like a little infectious dude that makes you lie or something. I can just picture what they look like as I go down the list here. Demons that attack the saints, And I'm not just talking like, oh, I'm going to flick a finger at you or whatever, but actually get on them and start defiling the saints themselves or getting into people's hearts so that they might attack the sainthood. Demons that try to induce old women and to attend witches' Sabbaths, which I thought was kind of funny. Because most people who go to Sabbaths are already witches. They don't just wake up one night and go, hey, it's a full moon. Let's go, Sabrina. So about 100 years later, we've got Peter Bensfield, a German bishop, who also honed these vague categories and aligned them also to the 7 deadly sins, hence the 7 princes of hell kind of look like this. So in giving your monsters names and titles, some of you may not know, but most of these guys go by many, many names. And these are a certain recognizable few. And so, like I said, I'm all about the education. If you have questions or concerns, you can always give me some information back and let me know. Or if you have questions, it's also good too. But I thought I'd hit with the heavy hitters, what people that you probably heard about before, but weren't sure where they are, because some people confuse these guys for themselves. Like, oh, this person is the same. Well, they're not. So number 1 being Lucifer. So Lucifer, whose rebellion against God caused him and his followers to be cast from heaven. He's known as the Emperor of Hell, who's ranked above Satan, hail Satan, often appeared in the form of a beautiful child corresponding to St. John the Baptist. So, yeah, Satan and Lucifer are not the same guy, just so that you know. That's another thing. It's a bane of my existence. It's like, don't tell me that Lucifer and Satan are the same, because they're not. Because they really aren't. Mammon, another heavy hitter. It's actually snuckily mentioned in several films. And I find it interesting that they would slip him in there, because you're going to hear this name once I've mentioned it. You're going to hear it a lot. Not in my program, but you're going to be more aware of it, unless you already are aware. But Mammon, his greatest power is the influence that he can exert over the human mind and heart. And like I said, these guys all go by different names, like a multitude of different names. But he inspires envy, greed, and a lust so potent that even good men can be driven to corruption. Usually, Mammon's evil grip leads to an obsession of sorts. So once you fall under his spell, you're going to struggle to focus on anything other than what he has tempted you. It's usually some kind of treasure or something that you are coveting, that he's going to wave in front of your little face and go, oh, so you like this, huh? So let me tempt you. And you'll do anything, well, almost anything, to get your hands on it. Because of this ability to monopolize a person's energy, many, many theologians describe Mammon as enslaving men, human men. So during the Middle Ages, many common people considered Mammon to be a deity all of his own, be a black-hearted deity, which I don't see anything wrong with being black-hearted, but that's just me. Even church leaders distinguish him as a powerful lord over the demon hordes of hell, naming his as one of the 7 princes of hell in this position of power. And some also say, they estimate that Mammon would have as many as 6,666,000 demons under his control, waiting to spring into action when he decided to execute one of his plans. So he's got quite the army going on. So you would think that, yeah, so things that man lets into their deepest, darkest corner just kind of gets out of control after a while, doesn't it? You let all those aspirations cook and your fears well up in your system, and they turn into basically the boogeyman. Then we've got Asmodeus. Not Amadeus, Asmodeus. Excuse me. Is one of the 7 princes of hell as well. A demon whose wickedness is matched only by his talents. specializing in spreading lust as well. But he doesn't just prey on common people. Not this guy. Also, kings and queens, and even divine entities have been affected by his touch alone. Funny thing about Asmodeus. Asmodeus is actually mentioned not only in 14th century literature, but even further as 3rd century BCE. So in the Talmud and the Testament of Solomon, Asmodeus actually appears as one of the demons who was forced to help build Solomon's temple. That's Solomon, right? Unfortunately, Asmodeus proved to be too powerful for this kind of slavery. Oops, my bad, right? So, and when his roving eye fell upon Solomon's beautiful wives, not just one wife, multiple, he decided enough was enough, and he hurled Solomon 400 miles into the desert, then disguised himself as the king and took over his palace, as well as his wives. So eventually Solomon did return and drove the demon out himself, but in the book of Tobit, which is around 400 AD-ish, Asmodeus appears again as an evil demon who kills several of Sarah's husbands, only to be driven away by the archangel Raphael. So I don't know how you're liking little history lessons, but this guy is in a lot of places just like Mamona is. Excuse me. I don't know why my nose is getting runny all of a sudden. Allergies. All right. And I know you've heard this before, but Leviathan, he's noteworthy. Just because, I mean, come on. Leviathan is a large beast of the sea. The thing that makes Leviathan so powerful is that not a lot is really known about Leviathan. Leviathan can be anything. And his immensity and capacity to cloak himself and just swallow you whole, or the world whole, if you wanted to. So Leviathan is referenced in the Old Testament of the book of the actual Bible. So the word has become synonymous with a large sea creature, which wouldn't have to be a sea creature as large as the sea itself, which could happen, you know. So Leviathan has the same origin as the Old Testament gives, but he is more or less a demon of pride. Leviathan is one of the most powerful demons there is, and high in the hierarchy. He's very moody. He does not like humans at all, and I don't blame him. We don't, like I said, we don't really know a whole bunch about Leviathan because he's such a shadow creature, or how he really operates, just that he's there, and I wouldn't want to make him mad. But we do know that he's absolutely immortal. He's never been killed or vanquished, and is invincible in every way that we have heard about. And so the one thing about Leviathan is his power that we know about is something called Hellmouth. And this was brought up a lot, that he's able to swallow entire islands or entire civilizations whole if he wanted to, or get them into his mouth, chew them up, and spit them out and make you wish you were dead. It's like, okay, that's enough to make most people stay up at night. And we've got a lot of people have actually told me, and this, I took a poll, and it's like, if I asked you who Beelzebub was, Beelzebub, oh, that's not real, that's Satan. No, it's real. It's not Satan though. So Beelzebub is the prince of the Seraphim, and he's next to Lucifer. So I'm not giving these in any one single order. If you want order, you can talk to me later. But there's a reason why I'm not giving order. But Beelzebub usually appears in the form of a giant fly. And he also corresponds side by side with St. Francis. So apparently they don't get along a whole lot. But a lot of people who've had run-ins with Beelzebub himself have actually wear St. Francis medals to try to keep him away or at bay, things like that. Like I've said in previous shows, that even Hades has this order. So there are rules to this game. Even as above, so below, there are rules. And you're pretty well off if you know what some of those rules are. And if you don't know what the rules are and you start playing the game, then don't come to me, because I'm going to tell you I told you so. Just if you don't know about it, don't be about it until you know a little bit more. I'm all for exploration, but just tread lightly and slightly. So, then we have Satan, uh, which is also Ammon, not Memon, Ammon. So those two are the same guy. They're just in different times. They gave them different name or him different names. The royal hymn. He burns with the desire to tempt men with his swine of luxuriousness and is the prince of everything lust and everything horrible and bad, which is quite a wide array of a lot of things. So the number one things that they say that he is, and this is by our lovely abbot friend who wrote about him, states specifically, prevents married couples from consummating their marriages, destroys marriages, forces husbands to commit adultery. He's also not a fan of John the Baptist. Apparently, he's one of those ones that can be lured away by that. But I thought it was kind of interesting. There's lots of things about Satan that most people don't know. I'm not going to go into it, but there's lots and lots, not only on the internet, but I do say, please go to the library and read, because there's nothing like reading a good old-fashioned book. You can't get away from it. You can't get around it. Books are awesome, and they don't have internet updates and things like that. And yes, some authors may not know everything about everything, but none of us do, really. So that means you're just going to have to get another book and formulate an opinion. Excuse me. Pardon me. So next we have Belphegor. Like I said, I'm not going to go down the absolute list, but I'm going to, these are the top. Belphegor is a lieutenant from hell, mentioned many, many times in the Bible under different guises and different names, who has been dispatched to Earth on a mission by Satan himself. So in doing so, while he's been here this whole entire time, this is something that I found out while I was abroad, is that Belphegor actually has an affinity for France, Paris, France, that is, which I thought was kind of interesting. So Belphegor is one of the many demons with the which they basically attribute to Baal, or in this case, Balpior, as such. Before he became known as Belphegor, he is mentioned in the Bible as the patron of Moab in Assyria, and was one of the false gods that Moses was handed down to the death penalty for worshiping. So, as one of the fallen angels himself, Belphegor was originally a member of the Order of Principalities, and after his fall, he became a demonic counterpart to one of the 10 Sephiroth that oversee the Tree of Life. So, he has a day job. So, aside from drinking absinthe and hanging out, then we've got one of his friends, Abaddon, the Destroyer. So you can't say Abaddon without actually putting the Destroyer next to it. He's worse than the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I wouldn't want to see a 100-foot version of this dude. His early career as the angel sent to collect the earth, which was used to create Adam, he later took up the role of an angel of the bottomless pit itself, chief of the human-faced, scorpion-tailed, horse-bodied demon of locusts. Sounds pretty heavy, eh? I at least thought so. Adramelech. Pretty familiar with this guy. Also known as the King of Fire. Great minister of Beelzebub's Order of the Fly. Adramelech became the president of the Senate of the Demons. I'm not even making this up. He is also the chancellor of hell and the supervisor of Satan's wardrobe. Can you even imagine being the supervisor of Satan's wardrobe? How can you imagine a job like that? So being generally depicted with a human torso and head, the rest of the body of a mule, sometimes of a peacock. I've seen him more depicted as having, and it makes more sense having the peacock, fantail going on. Especially if you're going to be so fabulously gorgeous with your bric-a-brac. that you can dress Satan himself, I guess. I thought that would be kind of interesting. Agares, pronounced many different ways, and also has multiple different names as well. Described as a duke under the powers of the East, an old man riding upon a crocodile and carrying a hawk on his fist who teaches languages, stops and retrieves runaway persons, causes earthquakes, and grants noble titles. So I would say he's kind of on a pride thing. One of my other favorites, Asmodeus. So he keeps rearing his head besides everything that we had talked about before with Asmodeus. Excuse me. Spreading lust and everything that goes with that. Finding out that there's casinos in hell. That's something new. I didn't know, because apparently Asmodeus takes charge of casinos in hell. So he's a pit boss, I guess, which I thought was kind of interesting. That actually was sent to me by somebody who writes about demons. And I'm not laughing at it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because you could go to Monte Carlo or you could go to the 7th level of hell, I guess. So, and then the other night we actually talked a little bit about Astaroth, who I'm also familiar with pretty well, who is known as a Duke of Hell. He's also known as the Treasurer of Hell himself. Also a mentor to newer demons that join the ranks. So he's also showing people around, I guess. So that would make sense that he rides around instead of walks, because that would be a long day. Another name that you might recognize is Azazel or Azazel. I pronounce it Azazel. So potato. Referenced in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Not kidding. Azazel was one of the first angels to fall from heaven, and lists among his achievements leading men to create and take up weapons. And on a side note, for women to apply makeup, which I thought was kind of interesting. It's like, oh, so I want to put makeup on my face because of this dude. Cool. So basically, not all demons, a lot of people say that demons are fallen angels. Not all of them. Like not all angels are archangels. Not all of them are the original ones. Demons were considered to be angels a long time ago who had been cast out of heaven for defying God. Most of these guys, I would say, not quite half of them, have actually served next to the creator God himself, I guess. Each demon was associated with specific acts and sins, and each was connected to a saint in heaven whose actions could overwrite that of the demon. And this is coming from our abbot friend. During the 16th and 17th centuries, so we're moving forward from the 14th, demonologists had developed a more complex hierarchy for the demons in order to enable exorcists to identify demons and call upon the correct saint to derive the demons out of the possessed. So as demons were thought to be fallen angels, their system of hierarchy mimicked that used to categorize angels themselves. So black and white, you got it right there. So aside from all of this black, white, angel, devil, people being unleashed and unhinged during the darker months, you've got ghosts, fairies, and a host of other nondescript creatures went with these guys. So when you unleash hell, you're unleashing everything that goes with it, including bad form on human capacity, I would say. And you can't say that the devil made me do it, because we've already proven that it's all your free will. So if you got somebody to blame, it's going to be what? Go stand in front of the mirror and go, whoa, hey, it's you. Haha. So when Samhain Halloween ends, and when Halloween actually ends, it's actually sunrise of the next day. We turn to the next Sabbat, which is Yule. Okay. So we start all over as it marks the end and the beginning of the new wheel of the year. So we're thrown even further into the darkness, waiting to be reborn at the return of the sun at Yule, right? So with that, and the demons, the hierarchies, and the things lurking and lunging and twerking themselves through the darkness, a lot of the lore that I come across and the more interesting stuff and more pointed, I would say, is bordering on Slavic paganism. And I would say it's not really even paganism, I would say practice, because they are very well steeped in their own mythologies and lores, and who's to say that it's not true? I mean, stranger things have happened, right? So in case some of you don't know, excuse me, the Slavic people are an Indo-European ethnic group that is basically found in Central Europe, Eastern Europe, Southeastern Europe, Northeastern Europe, North Asia, Central Asia, and West Asia. Countries include the Ukraine, Russia, Poland, the Republic of Czechoslovakia, say that 20 times fast, Slovakia, which is not Czechoslovakia, Belarus, Bulgaria, Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, and Macedonia. So, and there's lots of other little provinces and stuff that were all broken up because of war and maps, unfortunately, but these are the ones that are true to life. Other borders keep moving all of the time, so if I'm wrong, I apologize, but borders are constantly being reestablished. The Slavic people have their own folk traditions, as I said. Their cultures and mythology is deep and vast, and wow. I mean, some of the stuff that I've been reading is just amazing, and they should make more movies from Slavic stories, because they'd be a lot more interesting than some of the stuff that I've seen on Hallmark Channel, that is for sure. So one thing about the Slavic countries, and this is something that I found out from my own father, is that they practice predominantly a Christian or Orthodox, like my father died a Russian Orthodox Catholic, but they practice something that basically, it's not really that translatable, but if you were going to translate it to something that's not like 2 sentences long, it means double faith, which means that they're upholding their Christian faiths, but they're also upholding the things that have formed them and postured them for life from long ago. So they're keeping on to pagan traditionalism, which bunny air quotes that you can't see right now, because yeah, but I'll have a camera sooner rather than later. So hopefully in the new year, my camera will be here. So thank you. And you'll get to see my smiling face, or not so smiling face. So you get to hear me pronounce some of these words. But anyway, the practice of double faith is done not only by the Orthodox, but unorthodox, other traditions as well. Like we have people here that practice Roman Catholicism, and Santeria, Roman Catholicism and voodoo, and hoodoo, and other slants on the subject. I'm not going to go down the list because we only have 2 hours, but there is other instances of double faith in many other religions. Their old customs and practices actually survive today, but like many traditions, have been converted to Christian or Orthodox meanings to represent the pagan symbolism. So they're keeping all of it along the tradition, but trying to keep it, even if it's a square peg in a round hole, it's still fitting in there so that it has kind of an appearance of what it is and not at the same time. So according to Slavic mythology and a lot of other mythologies, actually, I've found the concept of death and winter are synonymous with each other. So the honoring of death only at Samhain or Halloween, Samhain, in order of modern paganism, doesn't have to only be reserved for one day, but carries through the entire following months. So from the end of fall all the way through winter. So not so long ago, you could say once upon a time, but not so long ago, the winters were harsh and brutal for most common people. Preparations had to be made all summer and into autumn to be ready for the long nights and the snows. You needed to labor basically all spring and summer through the year to be set, never knowing what the long winter nights would bring or bring to you. Chopping wood, putting as much salted meats and other food items that you could put away possibly. I mean, even keeping a communal store so nobody had to worry about starvation, let alone worrying about freezing to death. I know myself as a child, I grew up in the country where we chopped wood in the summer until our arms were about falling off because we were already bucking bales and putting hay away for the animals for the wintertime. In Northwest Washington State, it snows. It gets super cold. It snows. And if you don't have fresh hay for the horses or whatever, it's going to run you a bunch of money. So I had an old-fashioned family that we grew stuff in the garden. My grandparents would can. I know how to can if I had to. Make jams. I mean, these people had to go, coming from these people, you had to go all year planning for the winter. So even in the winter, while you're going through your food stores, hoping that the winter wouldn't last longer than you planned. Because Mother Nature's going to do what she's going to do. You can't stop it. We've had to learn that the hard way, haven't we? So you got to be ready. So death was not just a pendulum swinging over your head. It was actually a certainty for many. As winter progressed through the cold months, especially the weak, elderly, and children. February is said to be usually the harshest month of the season, even though spring is soon to come in the following months. In the Ukraine, the word for February actually translates into something like ferocious, savage, brutal, severe. I don't speak Ukrainian very well at all, so I'm like, brutal, severe, diabolical, rampant, pick one. Something really horrible about February, apparently, which seems to be a lot to describe the weather for a typical February. So, but I've not had to survive the winter in medieval Ukraine either. I don't know that I'd want to, but I like Game of Thrones, and I'm a House Stark fan. So put me in a castle in the middle of nowhere in the wintertime and I'll chop wood and sew with everybody else. I'll even hunt if I have to. But to me, everybody's like, oh yeah, I die without the creature comforts of where we're at now. Well, if everything were to go the way of the dodo all of a sudden, and everybody's lost. Is it me, or has everybody lost the ability? Well, most people who don't, who aren't from the countryside anywhere, don't have any skills. I mean, you might be able to barter, you might be able to find your way around for a little bit, but if you had to hunt and fish and put wood away, would you know the first thing to do at all? That's something to think about right there for those people with preparation minded right there. So with the winter and February and coming, I know a lot of people have already had their first snows, their first freezes, and it's only going to get worse from here. But in Slavic folklore, we have Morana, not Moana, Morana, goddess of winter, death, and witchcraft. Winter was probably one of the most brutal, harshest times during these times. A far cry from modern amenities that we were talking about that we definitely enjoy today, right? So when the frost hits, crops die, trees become bare, as well as the land. Can you imagine, even in your brain, like for miles and miles, there's nothing but cold, crunchy landscape. There's not even berries on bushes. The trees are stark and it's cold. The wind's whipping through. And even if you wanted to go out, you wouldn't be able to because the wind would probably kill you because it's too cold. For the cultures and civilizations that experience real winters, many have deities associated with the season and traditions that actually honor them or even try to cast them away, these deities, so that the spring will return quicker. Morana happens to be the daughter of the spring goddess Lada and the sky fire god Sarvag, and is the Slavic goddess of winter, death, and witchcraft, like we mentioned before, okay, in case you forgot. So she's known by different but similar names in Slavic languages: Marzana, Mara, Morena, Morai, Melanetsa. The list is long, but Ukrainian, Belarusian, and Polish is said to be related to the word mar, which actually means nightmare. She appears white like a shroud or the winter snow, the color that in the old days was put in time of trouble. So the mare in Norse mythology, where she appears as a night demon, a creature sitting upon a person's chest during sleep and causing nightmarish visions and some say mild suffocation. So, excuse me, in ancient times, people especially worship Morena. Initially, she is the goddess that was worshipped as a homemaker, but also a goddess of fertility and mother of all living. However, in time, gradually, Morena transformed into an evil messenger of wilting, impotence, old age, and diseases. So, from stories and beliefs, this god creature, Morana, who brought cold and winter with her, came death. She's compared to the Greek goddess Hecate, as noticed in medieval Christian sources, such as the Czech 9th century encyclopedic dictionary, Mater Verborum. Some say that actually Baba Yaga, another folkloric figure goddess, is actually the creation of Morana herself. So each day of the is the creation of Morana each year. Some say, I guess it's January 20th is Baba Yaga's day. Baba Yaga is considered to be one of the most intriguing characters from Slavic mythology. As ambiguous as she is, kind of hideous. I can't say much because that would be judgmental, but you just got to call a potato, I guess. Baba Yaga has been described by scholars as an anomaly, both a maternal mother nature type figure and an evil villain who enjoys eating those who fail to complete her tasks. Though the origins of her name are kind of unclear, as her purpose tends to be, it is believed that, well, a lot of people say that Baba means something like old woman or grandmother, while Yaga has conflicting theories, meaning ranging from snake to wicked. Regardless, excuse me, even Baba Yaga's name emphasizes the strangeness of her person, making her an interesting character to try to figure out. So the most common portrayal of Baba Yaga is as either one, an old woman, or a trio of old sisters, all of whom are depicted as skinny with iron teeth and noses so long that they touch the ceiling when they sleep. Can you imagine? Baba Yaga is commonly illustrated as riding around on a mortar or stone kind of cauldron thing rather than a broom, and wielding a pestle, which is a pestle is something also made out of stone that you actually grind things with. So mortar and pestle on her stone kind of cauldron thing. Wielding her pestle both as a flying aid and a wand as well. So tales involving her usually take place with her at her hut. So if I were her, I wouldn't want to be like leaving if I wanted to. If I was that big of a legend, I would be like, nah, I'm not going to fly around today. You can all come to me. I'll say boogie or whatever, and then you can run away screaming, okay? And if you don't run away, then I'll just throw you in the oven and eat you or something. Her tales always involve somewhere deep in the woods, standing on a hut on rickety chicken legs, like rooster legs with a rooster head on top of it. And lore also states that her hut is usually surrounded by a fence made of human bones. And I'm thinking that, well, because it's Baba Yaga, and I was told as a child that Baba Yaga's story actually has some origins in, or actually Grimm's ripped it off and made it into Hansel and Gretel. And there's different stories that all have the same moral meaning. Either listen to your parents or don't trust strangers. Going around the folk tales of Baba Yaga herself. So getting back to Morena, because some people say that Morena and Baba Yaga are the same person, but I didn't find any correlation between the two of them, but that's just me. You might, but I don't really see it. But nearing the end of winter, right? Rituals are usually done to cast winter away, finally, right? Bonfires would be jumped over to start rituals, or small effigies of a small girl with flowers, garments, and decorations would be made in the likeness of Morana to chase her away, to rid the land of winter, death, illness. The effigies would be burned and drowned in a river. So, one thing that I found, that jumping over a bonfire is very much indicative of Beltane ceremonies, where you jump over the flames and, but that puts me into thinking of winter witchcraft, where a lot of people do things for different reasons. I know that I do things at different times of the year for different reasons. Winter is similar to all those other times. Excuse me. So lighting of candles, burning of effigies, people having bonfires and taking up storytelling, or people casting in their circles. Like I said, for those of you who are solitary or don't practice at all, some people just get together with their friends in front of bonfires. It's a social thing to do in the wintertime. But winter offers us a time of year that we can basically use what remains locally for magical purposes. So for those of you that don't know, you don't have to go to an esoteric store to do things solitarily. And I'm not saying do anything diabolical. I'm saying that if you just basically wanted to confirm your intent with something, or just basically confirm your intent, period, you can use household items, especially this time of year. Well, I'm in Southwest Florida, so I'm not going to find holly and ivy and things like that unless I go to the local craft store and buy it. But I should have collected stuff like that when I was at home in Washington State. But you find, herbs and plants and berries and poinsettias. Some people say poinsettias. I was raised saying poinsettia. Holly, elderberries, cranberries can be used for holiday and winter magic, or for your holiday tables, or for holiday crafts, or for holiday altar dressing. Branches and bark from trees such as birch and pine or elder, or even evergreen trees can be used. I know for those folks down here suffering in Southwest Florida with no wintertime, you can either go to the craft store, you can get creative with palm fronds. Just make sure to clean them and shake them out outside, because you never know what's in them. You don't want to bring them, even if you're collecting things outside. Always use an air of caution. Make sure you're not bringing in a bird's nest by accident, or bugs or anything like that. Shake them out gently, and or if there's animals in it, please leave that branch alone and go to another tree or bush. Be kind to your local flora and fauna, and I know that I've always been taught, and I come from a very religious family, to be grateful and thankful, and to thank even the ground that you are using for walking, that you even have the dirt that you're standing on. So when you're taking stuff from the tree, like I taught my own daughter, it's like, be thankful for that. Or when you're hunting, be thankful that animal laid down its life for you. because otherwise you would starve. I mean, some people don't believe in hunting, but where I'm from, you hunt to put extra meat away for the wintertime because sometimes you get snowed in. Like there's no snow plows where I'm from unless you are in a city where there's hospitals or on the route where there's hospitals, because they're not going to plow you anywhere. You're not going to go anywhere if it snows that heavy. So you actually have to have provisions set aside. So, so just be careful when you are collecting things for your holiday altars or tables or festivals. If you're going to use things that don't come from a store, I'm all about it. Definitely collect things on your own. That's awesome. But just be careful, because I know here in Southwest Florida, I know it's a little tiny rant, but people go shelling here. They'll go shelling and they'll just pick up random shells and they'll go boil them out. Well, that's a good way to clean them, but that's also a good way to kill something that you got from the beach. So please make sure, if you're shelling, that you are not killing animals that are about going extinct because you wanted their shell. I mean, that's kind of, it's like somebody coming to your house and killing you at gunpoint to take your stuff. I mean, seriously. And I'm not a vegan, so that says a lot. So fire is an excellent method to use during the winter spells during the winter months for spells and magic. So I've got spells on the brain today. I actually had somebody ask me about spells and magic and what they could do. And if you aren't of the understanding of how spells and magic work, I'm all about learning. But if you don't know what you're doing, please ask somebody. And I'm glad that that person asked me. No, I won't be doing anything for the person personally. They just had general questions about how to do stuff. Always ask questions, even if it's not about magic. Ask questions about anything that's on your mind. I mean, you can only learn from it, or even the person that you're asking the question of, maybe they have something to learn from it. You never know. So, excuse me. So fire, we've got fire, excellent method also for warming yourself or making it a great environment for your holiday guests or people just visiting your home. I know that I am a candleaholic. I have candles all over my home. When I can get away with it, I have every candle lit in my home. I could live without electricity. If I didn't need the internet a couple times a week, I could totally use it. Be without power, because I don't really watch television. Well, I would miss my PlayStation probably, but I can always go to somebody's house and play. So along the lines of fire, cauldrons and candles, fireplaces are also great to use to add warmth and light, and also warmth to spells. There's reasons why you would use that. So snow and ice are also natural elements of winter. Collecting them from outside and using them to work natural types of magic, even tinctures, using them with crystals, things like that, to try to, as a form of wellness. Like we were talking on another one of our shows with Jennifer Malik, who happens to be one of the hosts of Paraversal Universe, and she's really awesome with crystals and knows a lot about them. So she was talking about making tinctures. And I'd thought about that before, but I'd never implemented it. Funny how that is. Excuse me. Oh, the air is getting dry in here, I think. Okay, so I didn't really say a lot about Morana and her connection to witchcraft, other than excuse me, that she is sometimes associated as a death crone. Considering Morana is a death crone herself, but in ancient times, witches and witchcraft often had a negative connotation as evil, negative, or cruel. So I don't like the word crone. And it's not because I am a crone. It's just to me, the word crone has a negative connotation. Maybe it's supposed to, but as we begin to collectively kind of shift the image of what crone actually means and represents, instead of vilifying the crone as an elderly woman or as hags, unwanted and negative, we can begin to see Marana in a different way, and the perception on the use of in modern day witchcraft. So as Marana rules over the winter months, we can be creative in using what remains and what is exclusive to this time of year. So bringing prosperity, protection, healing during the cold winter months. So Marana's cold winds, snow, illness, and death have come with the season, so we can use our creativity and magic to work with whatever Marana brings our way and make the most of our resources that we have. So, excuse me. So basically taking what you have, instead of running out to the store and grabbing whatever you can get, because either A, you've got the money to do so, or B, you just want that newer, better thing. And not everybody can do that. So winter has commonly been a time that you use what you have instead of wasting your salt, your table salt or your sugar, because it got, like here, if you don't keep it in a specific place, it'll get condensation and it'll become hard and weird, and so you have to crack at it to get it loose again. Things that I've learned living in a hotter climate is that you have to put everything in jars or in storage containers, because otherwise it'll get gross or you'll end up with bugs in your home. So a lot can be learned from living with not a lot of things. I think that a lot of us have gotten way too used to just going out and grabbing whatever is convenient, like, hello, convenience stores. For one, I run out of something, I can run over or tag somebody to go run over to the corner store and say, hey, can you grab me this or whatever. It's like, it's as simple as breathing. Think about the last time you went on a store run because you were missing something. It's like, did you actually have something at the house that you could have substituted for that? It's quite possible that you did. You just didn't think about it. I know I'm guilty of that. Excuse me. So with the hollies and the ivies and the dried goods, and we have trees that are, excuse me, that have changed and are about dying because of the winter months. People making Christmas trees, or they're making wreaths or swags. I know that where I'm from, a lot of people make swags from fallen cedar or fir trees. And then they gather other fallen goods like holly. And for those of you that haven't seen it in real time, that holly trees are very cool. My aunt actually had one, and then my neighbor actually had one growing up. And I didn't realize that in order to have holly as beautiful as it can be with the berries and everything else, you actually have to have a male and a female bush together, and they grow into a tree together. So, and they intertwine, and you end up with this beautiful plant. I never knew that. I had learned that growing up, that you have to have the two to get the one. So I always thought that was super cool. I always thought holly was just so beautiful. But to see it year round mostly, until, well, obviously summer, but it can be in the summer months, but it usually doesn't have the berries on it because the birds have picked it off over the winter and they have to grow back. But I always thought that was really super cool. But with the swags, taking fallen items from the ground and incorporating it into something beautiful is not only innovative, but super eco-friendly, where I know here, because I don't have holly and all that other cool stuff, I could go and get shells from the beach that are not inhabited by the creatures that were within them, because it is possible to find shells that are empty, and then bring them home and clean them, and then you can basically either hot glue them or find a way to affix them to palm fronds or other trees. We do have some evergreen trees here in Florida, not many, A lot of them have been transplanted, but there are a few. And then just make things up. Like, I know I've got skeins of ribbon around here to make things festive. I've got dried flowers. You can do anything you want. It doesn't have to be like a Coca-Cola commercial or a Rockwellian, Norman Rockwell. It doesn't have to be that, or Curry or Knives. It doesn't have to be that either. Make your own. You just be adventurous and creative. You don't always have to have everything be absolutely perfect, right? So part of all of this that we're talking about, using our creativity and our own magic, whether you believe it in or not, to work whatever winter brings our way and make the most of the resources that we do have. So you have more than you think you do. You always have more than you think you do. Even if you think that you are the least fortunate person on the planet, number one, you need to stop thinking like that. Number two, I promise you, you're probably better off than a lot of people are right now. So you should smile and be happy for at least a little minute and know that there's lots of things that you can figure out for yourself. Like the other day, I was really proud of myself, and I normally, figure things out as they come. And I'm not a big person to eat leftovers. I did a lot of it. I usually give a lot of food away, but I actually, over last weekend, I actually made, I had leftover gravy that was still leftover from Thanksgiving that was still it was fresh. Don't worry. It wasn't gross. And I had leftover turkey, so I used the last of the turkey and gravy and made biscuits. And so I had turkey, gravy, and biscuits in a bowl because that's what I had. And I'm like, hey, I did something new. I know a million other people probably doing the same thing, but I'm like, hey, I didn't go out. I didn't ask for somebody to come by with anything. I didn't order pizza or anything. I had what was there. And now that I truly need to go look in my refrigerator and make a list, because I totally don't really have anything right now. But unless I want to eat cornstarch and sugar or something, or drink coffee. So none of that is appealing except for the coffee part. But just being creative on your own can be something that actually makes you feel better during these longer, darker days. Figuring out the things that you can do instead of the things that you cannot do, right? Along that, with your own resources, witchcraft is about being creative, using what you have and the elements of the season to craft and create, and ultimately to manifest what you desire and hope for. So it's all about intent. So, and that's even if you're not into witchcraft, if you're into just trying to make the things come into your life that you've been trying to get your will to produce. So for those of you that are students of The Secret or students of Tony Robbins or other people who use similar things, it's all about not just ideation or obsession, but actually willing those things to come into your life instead of thinking, oh, I've got this big axe over my head and it rains all the time. Well, just like the crow, it can't rain all the time. It can't. So even if you're listening to The Cure all the time, it doesn't matter. And like in my gothic soul here, what there is left of it, there are good times to be had, even when it seems like it's darker, even in our current political torrent and mood. There's lots of things to be had that are good. Think about that. You don't have to be conjuring things. You don't have to be doing anything but being your awesome self and figuring out things that you can brighten your day, conjure happiness into your life without, the conjure part. Just thinking about the good things that could happen, instead of, oh, that good thing could happen, but, well, there's no but. Take away the but part and then insert the good part and saying, keep hammering in that one ideation of your ideal of things to come and act like you already have it. And there you go. It's pretty simple, And I realized that life is hard for a lot of people. And for many parts of the world, the cold, dark winters, or just the season here, it doesn't matter where you are, what part of the planet that you're on, if you're on this planet or a different one, or even on another earthly plane or another dimension, you can, it can be bleak. It can look bleak. It's just the world, and it happens to us all. Life and death is a promise. I mean, you live and things die away, and death is not the end. Death is, it's kind of a dark terminology for a transitional period, I would say. Kind of like honoring winter, because winter doesn't last forever. Winter is just a season. Just like if you're experiencing a season of things that are not the greatest, it's just a season. They go away. They come and go, ebb and flow, right? So we can all learn to accept the harsh chills of life like winter, because it happens all the time. Winter is every year. In fact, they used to count people's ages by how many winters they had been alive, because winter was so harsh. And this is not just in Slavic countries or Eastern Western Europe. This is actually a lot of places, including colonial America. How many winters are you? It's like, wow, you survived the winter. So if you survive the winter, that's enough. Or the winter of your discontent, that is enough. You know, try not to be discontented. Find something to be contented about. So we try to shirk off certain things with games or TV shows or things like that. But why don't we try to forget the darkness outside and actually light up or illuminate your world inside as a distraction, and imagine yourself as that light in the darkness, that you might be in the darkness or be about darkness like myself, but I still have light on the inside. I may have an onyx core, but, you know, at least it's not obsidian, right? You can at least heat up onyx fairly quickly. But all of these distractions that we have, and we've got our downside, which we've been talking about. Well, what about the highs of the holiday situation, the celebrations? Many are met with seasonal depression and the aftermath of festivities, but then you're left with overcast skies and cold wind, a dreariness of the snow after New Year. But, you know, there's lots of things that can be had in the meantime. I mean, it's not dreary. I mean, I wish I could trade with you if you're in somewhere cold and dreary right now. I just think that Saraphine would love to be freezing over with you, because I love the cold. I love sitting by the fire and learning more about people. I live for that kind of thing. Or sitting in the dark with my cat, just listening to my cat purr, or, you know, things like that. I mean, there's so many things that I could do if there wasn't any electricity. I guess electricity to me is kind of a distraction. But when you think about it, with all these festivities and the things that we believe that we're left with or left behind with, you're actually not. New Year's Eve's traditionally on December 31st on the Gregorian calendar. But if you follow the Julian calendar, which Orthodox faiths follow, that's January 14th. The Julian calendar is 2 weeks behind the Gregorian calendar. So my sister and I got to have 2 Christmases, which was kind of awesome. Go ahead and laugh. It was awesome. So I had Christmas with my mom and Christmas from my dad, because he lived in Yuzinki, Alaska, and he'd often send things or whatever. But having Christmas Yuletide festivities and then having him call and talk about Christmas and the stuff that they would do because of his being Russian Orthodox Catholic, and how different that is. So 2 Christmases was kind of fun when my father was alive. I know that I could still have 2 Christmases if I really wanted to, but I really only give gifts because I like to. I'm one of those people. That's one of my, if you believe in that languages of love thing, bunny air quotes, one of my love languages is that I like to give gifts, and I like to wrap them and make a great presentation out of them, because I don't know, it's always done something for me ever since I was a kid. I mean, I don't mind getting gifts, but it's weird when I get gifts. But I like to give them. And so that just makes me an even stranger bunny for that. But I mean, think of every day as a present, or don't think of the things that you can't give to people if you don't have a lot. Think of the things that you can craft yourself, or like I do beadwork. I can give gifts like earrings or necklaces or things like that to my female family members. And for the male ones, I can make rosaries or something and they can just hang them from their rear view mirrors or something. If they want to wear them, they can go ahead. But one of my favorite gifts that I ever got was actually from my mom. She had a rosary made for me. I know, shock of shocks, I have a rosary and I kept it. Oh my gosh, yes, I do. Actually, it's by my bedside right now. My mom had this because I was born in October. My birthstone's an opal, which makes it kind of buggery for people to get me gifts with my birthstone in it because it's kind of expensive and fragile. But the opposite stone for that is basically rose glass or rose-colored crystal. So my mom had a rosary made for me out of the Tree of Life, and it does have Jesus in the middle of it, but it's actually on the Tree of Life itself. And I thought that was really cool that she actually had that made for me. So, and I know that it wasn't expensive. It was something that was from the heart. And it was made probably by an older lady at her church, most likely. Because I know there's several women there that do that. As part of their ministry, they receive donations to make certain items for the holidays or for birthdays or whatever. But yeah, think about the things that you can do, or draw people pictures, or make handmade cards, and you can make those from paper that you find around the house. You don't have to get fancy. It's about the heart of the situation. Like, my not celebrating Christmas for Christmas's reasons. I celebrate Christmas as a family type holiday. Am I going to be at home with my family? No. But I can call them. I can Skype with them. I have my extended family here on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network that I talk to, and I'm pretty sure we'll be talking and Skyping over the holidays. Well, actually, not even pretty sure. I know that we will be. But and for those of you that haven't already been to our chat room or in there now, hi. But Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network.com, LNM Radio Network.com. We have a free chat room. All you got to do is sign up, and you can talk to some of us. You can meet some new people who listen to the radio station and some of the shows, meeting some of the hosts and everything else. And while I'm at it, I thought I would actually give a thank you to our affiliates here. We've got High Point Radio 1620 AM 100.5 of New Jersey, and broadcast through New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. WCET 101.7 Columbia, South Carolina. KOY 1230 in Phoenix, Arizona. We also have KYAH 540 AM, Utah's Talk Authority. We also have YouTube shows, TuneIn, Twitch, Facebook, iTunes, Open Eyes Radio Network, Neely Productions Incorporated, Neely Worldwide Publishing, Paranormal Radio, a TalkStreamLive.com apps, and Amazon Alexa. Also streamed and restreamed through various other outlets all over the world via the internet. So if you can Google it, you can definitely find it. Also, we have definitely other affiliates here where you can click through here on LateNightInTheMidlands.com. radio page, My Patriot Supply being one of them, America's Trusted Self-Reliance, with food up to a 25-year shelf life, which pretty spiffy. I've heard that a lot of the food is not only got a good shelf life, but it has tasted fantastic. So mypatriotsupply.com, all spelled correctly. So go there and save money on get food that's good for your family. So thank you to all of our affiliates for hanging in there with us here at Late Night in the Midlands Radio, especially through these months to come here. I know that we've got other hosts and hostesses coming in. I know that we've had some go out, but if you hang in there with us, I know that that everybody's doing their best to put on live radio network shows and broadcasts for you 24/7 as many times as they can. So if anything, this is a hard-working group of people. I thank Katie and Daryl Neely and Michael T. Vara for making Late Night in the Midlands possible for myself and for the other hosts, because without him, I wouldn't have met all these awesome people. So I have a lot to be thankful for. I have a lot to be grateful for. And thank you for listening to my show here, even though I have a tendency to go on about certain things, but I do have points. And as I've said to other people, I do write my shows out so that I can make sure that I stay pointed and enter and leave on kind of the same note. But this, I realize I'm kind of spinning the wheel today, but I just really want to cover a couple of things, more than a couple of things. And thanks for being with me on this journey here. Like I said, and if you do have questions, you can catch me on my social media, Saraphine Hurley, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, all Saraphine Hurley, or Twitter is Saraphine1818. Just look for my picture. I'm kind of hard not to miss. Not many people have hair this black anymore and are my age. So I guess I'm gothic for life. That's how I'm going. I came in, I'm going out this way. So, yeah. So getting back to our festivities here. So, excuse me. A lot of people like myself, I don't really like getting involved in a lot of holiday activities because people ask a lot of questions. But you know what? I've gotten over myself a lot, and I'm starting to be a lot more social than I used to be and go out a lot more than I used to. By this time, a lot of us are already ready for winter to be over, unless you enjoy winter activities outdoors, because it's only going to get colder from here. I know here in Southwest Florida, it's actually dipped down to 34 degrees, which I know to you people that are further north, that's probably shorts weather right now. But here, that's phenomenally low, especially, for this time of year. And like right now, it's probably 70-ish. What does Google actually say about what? Yeah, it's about 70-ish degrees. It's between 71 and 73 degrees right now, if you're not in direct sunlight. So it's pretty outside, and there was a little bit of a breeze, but I don't think it's there anymore. But I used to love having winter activities. I love to go sledding. Even now, when I'm home with my sister's kids, we go find a hill and we go inner tubing or we go sledding or whatever. And I don't care how old you are. If you can't sled down a hill, oh my gosh, unless you are infirmed in some way and can't do it, it's fun. It's totally fun. And it's a cheap thing to do. You can just go spend time with family and go find a safe place to go. And I mean, there was a hill when I was a kid growing up. When I was a lot younger, we had our own property, and we had this gully that had hills on both sides. One was waist deep on one side, and one was, shorter but steep on the other. And you could get going fast enough that you'd get halfway up the other hill. But if you were adventurous and the ice was thick enough, we had a hill that went down over into a pond area. so that if you accidentally went too far, you'd end up in the pond, but you'd actually skitter across the pond to the other side. It was kind of fun. But the festivities here, I know that one of the islands over here is having its Christmas tree lighting ceremony this weekend. A lot of places have had their Christmas tree lighting ceremonies or about ready to. I know mostly for where I'm at right now, they've all happened, but like Santa Maria Island here is having their Christmas tree lighting ceremony this weekend. Excuse me. And I'm sure that's really pretty. Another thing that we have happen here, I know in Seattle they do it too, because that's kind of where I'm from. So we do a boat parade, because usually the Pacific Coast doesn't really get frozen over. Just the beaches and stuff get really cold. But seeing the Christmas lights on the boats is always something really cool. So at this point, I like to go down by the river at night and see if any of the homes down on the river front or any of the boats have Christmas lights on them, because they're really pretty. I love to be by the water, even in the wintertime. I don't care how cold it is, even if it's here, even if it's in Washington State, or anywhere else for that matter. But some of us, our festivities are just beginning. Some of them are going to be winding down until Christmas and then New Year's. But business as usual, no matter what, right? Except wintertime. And a lot of people don't like it because of the driving or anything else, the cold snaps and the weather during the daylight hours. And a lot of people I know have to work 9-to-5 jobs, which can make it kind of buggery to have to go back and forth into when it's really super slick out. So please be careful. Because I don't know about you guys, but I know in Washington State, when it gets cold after December, it seems to get colder. It doesn't get warmer, that's for sure. But a lot of people become seasonal. They have a seasonal affective disorders. So a lot of people order lamps, or they go to tanning beds. I know myself at one point, I was diagnosed with having seasonal affective, and I'm like, I don't have seasonal affective. I was born here. But apparently it can happen at any point. And so I actually started going to tanning beds. And so that actually helped me for a season. But no matter what, if you feel seasonally affective, just know that you are not alone. And there are a lot of people who are most likely thinking about you. I know I'm thinking about you right now, and you're not by yourself. There's lots of people, even on the internet, who care. There's lots of places, if you Google it, people to talk to if you feel like you're by yourself. I know a lot of times I feel like that, and I just have to reach out. It's all in the ability to reach out. So reaching out, trying to get away from the cold or feeling cold. A lot of people here, because I am a creature of Southwest Florida right now, excuse me, we have what they're called snowbirds. People who get away from the cold months for anywhere from 3 to 6 months out of the year, and they go here to Southwest Florida. So during this time of year, I see license plates from Ontario, Canada. I see license plates from Quebec. And that's in Canada for those of you that don't know. I see license plates that are from foreign countries. I see license plates that are from Washington State, and I always get a big smile on my face when I see Seahawks. Anything like if I see you wearing a Seahawks sweatshirt and you're in Florida, you're probably going to hear me yelling if I'm in the vicinity. Don't worry, it's not a crazy person. It's just me being happy that I see somebody from the Pacific Northwest. So yeah, things that make you happy. Snowbirds. A lot of people don't like our snowbirds, but we need the revenue here because, well, Southwest Florida is for the newlywed and the nearly dead. So there's lots of medical centers here. There's lots of, I didn't ever see a kidney dialysis place in a strip mall until I moved to Southwest Florida. I wish I was kidding. I'm not kidding. They're everywhere. There's cancer research centers. There's cancer specialty centers. lots of places here if you have any kind of ailment, because of all of the people that we get from other places, period, not just other states. We're talking about other places and on the planet, not just the contiguous United States of America. So people make temporary homes, or people actually have 2 homes, and they actually live here 3 to 6 months, and they go back to the north. And like I said, they call them snowbirds. I didn't get it until I had lived here probably for the first year, excuse me, because it goes from having regular crazy traffic here to all of a sudden, boom, you've got every crazy driver from around the world in Southwest Florida. And that's from all the way down, because I'm as southwest as you can be without actually being in Mexico. I'm actually on the Gulf of Mexico. So I can go one way and go to Miami or Fort Lauderdale or Miami, or I can go the other way and hit all of those places. So it's kind of a nice place to be if you're into hot weather. I really don't deal with hot weather very well, but here I am. But those are choices that you can make. You can go outside. You can move to Southwest Florida. You can start tanning to get warm and to get UV. But just make sure that you're wearing appropriate skin stuff so that you don't end up with any kind of weird melanoma or any other weird things. Just take care of yourself. But all this comes down to holidays, lore, giving Marana her due, which basically, coming down to the end, we see that Marana is actually in everything winter. That she embodies not only the beauty and the gloriousness that can be seen and felt during the winter months and holiday seasons and festivities, but she also has the duality of showing the darker side of death and decay and just nothingness. Even though, I mean, I can only equate it to the nothing, like a never-ending story, just long miles and miles of cold space, where even that could be beautiful to somebody. I know to me it can be. But we all know in the end, life has a price. So you have your abundance and beauty. So how do we pay for all of that? We live our lives, and the outcome a lot of times is what we make of it, because life, we've all been told, has never been easy, and winter is kind of a testament to that, is that if you can get through the winter in medieval Ukraine, you can get through anything. It's kind of like life, the game of life. If you've been dealt a really crummy hand, if you can get through that, it's like winter for some people in the Ukraine, and I would say the Iron Age or pre-Iron Age even. Like most people avoid discussing death or some of the day-to-day difficulties that we may face. I mean, I've got to go there with the death and mortality thing, but I know a lot of people turn to, oh, hey, that's neat and shiny, or social media, hey, that's neat and shiny, or I don't know, Netflix. There's been some interesting things on Netflix, so if you have the ability to see Netflix, or go to your local library and check out DVDs or whatever. But Marana brings these challenges, forcing us to face the darkness within the world, within ourselves, to hear the cries of the departed, and to craft our own magic from deep within ourselves when we feel all is barren and dead with nothing left. We can embrace the season for all it is, the cold, feeling the desertedness, the darkness, or feel it for what it really is, instead of looking at it from glass is empty to glass is actually half full. You know, even if it's lukewarm coffee, I'm still going to drink it, because if that's all I've got, I'm happy to have that lukewarm coffee. And even though it's been sitting there half the day, it's better than not having any at all, right? So you can still see light in your darkness. You can be the light in your own darkness. It's just the way you look at it. I mean, walking through a bare forest in winter and feeling the trees around you hibernating and listening to the wind blowing through the branches and feeling nature around you would be equating it to feeling the winter around you, feeling Marana herself in all of her glory, that razor shard of wind just kissing your cheek, even though you're surrounded by beauty and the bareness, you know, even though it could be 5-6 feet of snow and you're walking down a trail in the middle of this winter hinterland, but there's still something to be seen in it. There's still something that you're actually walking upright through that trail, surrounded. I mean, you can see wild animals scavenging for food, things like that. I mean, people foraging are not unlike animals foraging for food in the wintertime, you know. And if you happen to walk through the forest or through the park, collect a piece of nature like a pine cone, acorn like a tree branch, or even place a gift by the tree for the animal spirits and Marana herself, if you feel like it, if you're feeling festive. Or take what you've collected and place it on your altar or sacred space to connect you with the seasonal change happening outside. You don't have to be practicing anything to do anything like that. Just have it be like a hallmark for your meditation point, or a hallmark in your quiet space. Like, hey, I got this pine cone, or hey, I got this rock. You're going Zen here. I've got a rock. Rocks are fairly safe as long as you're not hurling them at somebody, you know, or trying to swallow them. So don't swallow the rock, please. You can also make a small note. Also, this is something that I've done, and attach it to your item and then mark the date that it was collected. But I've also made something that I learned in Europe. I actually had taken a small piece of paper and then tied it with a regular string, not a ribbon, biodegradable regular cotton string, to a tree branch to leave my wishes or my intents in the wind. It's kind of an interesting way to look at it. Or some people actually write things down and burn them as well to send their intentions into the air. But we can choose to ignore the things that are around us. We can choose to take the beauty in that's around us. It's all choice. Focus on the season itself with the festivities or the things that are important to you. But when the festivities are over, we're still left with winter, and Marana remains. We can honor the season with open hearts and arms. The holiday season, like all seasons, is only temporary, like winter is temporary, right? And come springtime, sunny skies, warmer temperatures, which bring all kinds of color and more things for us to be grateful for. You should be grateful and thankful you made it through to another season, like I said. That is enough to celebrate as it is. Getting through the week, getting through the day. Celebrate yourself that you made it through that board meeting. You made it through traffic to your goal. You made it through Costco. That is a feat, especially this time of year. With all the lines, I'm not even making jokes. Costco can be very serious. I know I got winged when I was in Washington. I had somebody run a cart right into the back of my heel. It's like back-to-back people, and we were there like at the moment the doors open. Oh my gosh, those places get vicious quick, especially on the weekends. But take time to celebrate yourself, celebrate what something means to you. You don't have to be caught up in everybody else's whatever. Have your own celebrations. Even if you're going to somebody else's celebration, celebrate your way. Make sure that your need is taken care of. Make sure that you're healthy and safe and warm. Making sure that what you're looking for is being met. What is your goal? Do you have seeds in your belly waiting to be germinated? Are you holding on to something that needs to be cut off? Are you holding on to something that maybe you should leave and walk away from? I mean, this is a good time to walk away from unhealthy attachments as well, be they earthly or divine. You know, be the something that you really were dealing with, and I'm I'm not saying that it's easy for everybody. Some people easier than others, but I mean, it's a good time for introspection. Winter. You have a little bit of time to think about some stuff before everything is all hopping again, where people are getting ready to go to the parks for picnics and going to the beach or going for long drives with the top down. But I go for drives with the top down when it's wintertime because that's me. And yes, to my sister, yes, I do and would drive with the top down in a snowstorm. I totally would. Because I just like being outside that much, even in the cold. But prepare yourself for what may come this winter, keeping yourself, caring for yourself. You can care for others, but just like they say, when the masks come down in an airplane because we're lost altitude, if you don't put your mask on, you can't help anybody else because you're going to end up passed out. So due to oxygen, you don't have any oxygen in your brain, you're going to pass out. But self-care, especially this time of year, because I know I see commercials that make me really upset and stuff. And it's not upset in a political way, just upset because it's depressing. You can be honest with yourself. Just don't wallow in it. You can have your pity party for a moment and then get up and brush yourself off and say, hey, I am better than this. I've got stuff to do and people to do it with and things to go to. So even if you got to make something up, figure it out. If you want to go brave Costco on your own, then you do that, Columbus. Or you want to go to Walmart and go people watching, that's free. You don't have to buy anything. I mean, my sister and I go to Walmart to feel pretty. I mean, it sounds hilarious, but it really is. Because, come on. I mean, how many people have gone to Walmart and seen something that they would never see in a zoo? Come on. And that's just being honest. I don't know what people are thinking except for they need to get to Walmart, but Walmart has become a culture all of its own, and I think there probably could be a show of its own probably if it really wanted to be. Just thinking out loud. But you need to prepare for the things that come, even though we're surrounded by abilities. It's like even if you're in a state of disability, you have abilities. You have lots of things. I mean, things that weren't even available 5 years ago or 3 years ago are available now to you to use or utilize. And it's not all about money. It's about caring for yourself. What do you need to succeed in your life? What are you going to need to succeed through this winter? What are you going to do in this next year? I don't really believe in resolutions. I believe in changing your life for the better. So are you going to change your life? And have you reached out and changed your attitude about something? Because the only person that it hurts to carry grudges about is you. Because I know I don't need one more wrinkle, so I'm not going to worry about it. So, so you can think about it that way, or think about things, immediate things that you can change, like furniture. It's like, oh, hey, I can change my bed to a different way, or I can take the curtains off or put curtains up, or I can change the way the cat's food bowl is, or I can go to Netflix and watch a show that I never in a million years would watch. I've done that recently. Like there's something called Chef's Table that I watched recently. I'd never seen the show before. It's interesting. So if you've got some time, I like to cook. And so looking at things from around the world and different perspectives is kind of interesting to me. May not be interesting for you, but it's something. It's something to watch. It's something to do. If you're into games, find a new game. Excuse me, like a game like you would not normally play. Like, I don't really like multiplayer games, but I actually got into Destiny 2. And I'm really kind of hooked on it. And even though I'm not big on it, or start playing board games, or find a book that you wouldn't normally read. That's part of self-care. Exploring. I know that when I read something, I get catapulted into that world, and my imagination goes crazy. I mean, even reading things that I know friends of mine have written, even on their Facebook walls, I'll read into that and I'm like, that's really neat, or that's really profound, or, oh, that's really sad. It's okay to feel sad for somebody else, but make sure at the end of the day that you are taking care of yourself and preparing for what is happening, preparing for what is coming, or preparing for what isn't coming. Like making sure you have enough gas in your car, or making sure that you have, if you drink milk, I don't drink milk, but case in point, somebody said that they needed milk the other day, and I'm like, not only ew, but gosh, how much milk do you guys drink? Oh, we go through like a gallon a day, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of milk right there. But I don't drink milk, so I can't fathom it. But and I realize that almonds do not have the equipment to provide milk, but somehow magically almonds make milk, and I think that's better for most humans that I don't ingest milk products. I'm just saying. But just case in point, I mean, everybody does things so differently, or everybody has needs that are so different, and that is okay. Especially this time of year, it's okay to tell people that you can't do certain things, that you are not okay with certain things. It's okay to put your foot down. You know, you don't have to go towards everybody's ideal of whatever. This is your life. This is where you're standing now. This is your existence. And your existence matters. So I'm not saying go out with a big chip on your shoulder. I'm saying realize that your existence matters just as much as that person next to you. So let that person have their turn, and then your turn is next. And then do what you need to do to prepare yourself. Like buy an extra thing of ramen at the grocery store, or like I found like ramen was like a miraculous 20 cents at the grocery store. And so you pick up a couple of things of it. It's like one thing you learn in college is that there's a million ways to eat ramen, or if you're a single mom also, you can stretch ramen a super long way. I existed on tea and top ramen for a long time, especially when I lived in Europe. But it was mostly like not really ramen, but udon noodles or pot noodle. Because everything's expensive. So you've got to pare down, and it's okay to do that. Don't feel bad. And people have got to receive you the way you are. So, and that's okay too. So you need to be okay with you, bottom line. Deal through the winter months, deal through this lovely seasonal place that we're at. Enjoy the season for what it is at face value. See the beauty in the darkness, even if the light that you're seeing is your own. Shine your light bright. It doesn't matter what flag you're flying. It matters who you are and how you treat people and how you expect to be treated back. It's okay. So you and I are going to get through the holiday season, and we're going to land on our feet, and we're going to be ready for the spring. I think that's an okay way to end up. I know you probably do too, even if you disagree momentarily. I mean, we can talk about monsters, we can talk about demons, we can talk about urban folk tales, we can talk about folk tales from 3,000 years ago. But the long and the short of it is that we're all living kind of the same way, only with convenience stores instead of the local peller. We're not going to be bathing ourselves in chicken blood or anything like that. But if you do that for your ritual, okay. I'm not going to say that you're wrong. People were doing that long ago. But yeah, just do what you need to do to get through. And as long as you're not hurting anybody, you're good. As long as you're not breaking the law, you're good, right? As long as people can't say that you did something wrong. Well, even if they can say that you did something wrong, most people try to blame me for, ask my mom, she blames me for stuff that I didn't even do. Like, I mean, I'm waiting for her to blame me for the president being who he is. Just saying. So you've got to be okay with the way people perceive you, the seasons that are coming, the people that are going to be around you, even if you can't stand them. Don't give them the time of day. Just be polite. Take the high road. And even if you can't be there the whole time, be there part of the time and say, I've got to go. I've got to go. I've got a date with a book, or I've got a date with Morena, or I've got a date with Asmodeus. And most people go like, who's Asmodeus? And you go, oh, he's my new boyfriend. I dare you to say that, actually. Really double dog dare you. But once again, thanks again for listening to Tripping the Void here with me, Saraphine Hurley, and thanks again to the crew here at Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. So definitely blessed by these people here. They work hard all year round. Make sure to stop by and say hello in our chat room at LNMRadioNetwork.com and sign up for our chat room, because that's all we really ask, is that you sign up, because otherwise you can't join. And you have an amazing weekend, no matter what you do. Just enjoy yourself. Okay? Have a great day. This has been Late Night in the Midlands, Tripping the Void with Saraphine Hurley. I know I enjoyed the trip. Until next time, Saraphine Hurley with Tripping the Void. Later.